Earlier this month, my radio battery was so bad that I couldn't even listen to the radio. And when I tried to test it, all I could figure out was the amount of voltage in decimals. But I didn't know decimals at the time, only fractions. Well, now I know a lot more about decimals than fractions, so I think I can use this machine again with a lot more confidence. So I'm going to take my battery, and I'm going to put the testers on the different nodes here. 1, 2. And let's take a look at how much power there is. Oh, 0.03 volts. I think I'm almost ready to represent that as a fraction. I just need to learn a few more things. Let's do some learning, and then I'll write that as a fraction. To try and figure out how we can convert decimals to fractions and fractions to decimals, we first need to figure out how to break up those fractions and those decimals into their parts. So, let's take a look at the paintings we have here, once again by Vincent van Gogh. And what I want you to do is, for each painting, write how many tenths there are, and then how many extra hundredths there are. In other words, how many hundredths are there after you've counted the tenths. So just try that out, count the tenths and the hundredths, and then check your answers when we're done, and then we'll do the next step afterwards. Alright, starting in the top left, we have what looks like the painting of a cathedral. We don't have the whole picture. We only have part of it. What portion of it do we have? Let's take a look. We remember that each horizontal row is 1/10. So how many horizontal rows are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4/10. And then how many extra hundredths after that? None. We just have the rows, so 4/10 and 0 hundredths. Next one on the right, we've got this beautiful looking cottage over here. And we remember that the tenths are the rows. So how many rows are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 rows. And then the extra hundredths, there are those individual pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 extra hundredths. So you'd say 6/10 and 4 hundredths. Next picture on the bottom left. I can't actually see what building this is because the building part is obscured. The only parts of it that you can see are the non-building parts. Oh well, what portion of it can we see? How many tenths are there? 1, 2, 3. So 3/10. And then extra hundredths, 1, 2. So you'd say 3/10 and 2 hundredths. And in the final painting, we can see only a little bit of a building, and the rest of the scene is obscured. What portion of the painting do we see? I don't see any tenths, because I don't see anything that could be called a row, so 0/10. And then how many hundredths? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 hundredths. Great. Now how would you write those as decimals? So far, when we've been writing decimals, there's been a tenths place and a hundredths place. How do we know what digit to put where? Oh, look, we've already figured it out. We have our amount for our tenths place and our amount for our hundredths place. So this is going to be super easy. You just transform those tenths and hundredths into the correct place value. Okay, try that out and then press play to check your answers when you're done. I think this is going to be super easy for you, so it won't take you long. Okay, welcome back. Let's try it. So, in the top left, we've got 4/10 and 0 hundredths. So when you write that out, it's going to be 4/10 and 0 hundredths. See how the 4 is in the tenths place and the 0 is in the hundredths place. Next on the top right, we have 6/10 and 4 hundredths. So when we write it as a fraction, it's going to be 6/10 and 4 hundredths. And again, the 6 is in the tenths place, the 4 is in the hundredths place. In the bottom left, we have 3/10 and 2 hundredths. So when we write that, it's going to be 3/10 and 2 hundredths. And again, see, the 3 is in the tenths place, the 2 is in the hundredths place. And finally, in the bottom right, we have 0/10 and 4 hundredths, and you can just call that 4 hundredths. So there's going to be a 0 in the tenths place and a 4 in the hundredths place. Do you see a pattern? We're always making sure we follow the place value. The tenths go in the first place after the decimal point, and then the extra hundredths go into the second place after the decimal point. Next, what I want you to do is make 4 of these 100th grids. Now, I know that might take a bit of time, so if you have a printer, I've uploaded a document to Google Classroom and you can just print it out instead. But if you don't have a printer, please just take the time, get a ruler, and make these 100th grids, because it's important to be able to practice this whole idea of converting decimals into fractions. So, what I'm going to ask you to do once you've finished your printing out your 100th grids, or drawing them, is to color in the correct portion of the grid based on the decimal that you see. So for example, for the first one, 0.06, that's how much you need to color in for the grid. Okay, press pause to try that out, and then press play to check your answers. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. In the top left, we have 0.06. So how many should you have colored in? Well, 6. Something like that. And I'm going to be using the same painting for each of these, and you're going to slowly see more and more of the painting, and we'll see who it is in the end. Okay, next one on the top right, 0.17. So how many are we going to color in? 17. Something like that. Oh, I see a forehead. In the bottom left, 0.20. So how many are we going to color in? Well, that's 2/10. So we're going to color in 20 of the boxes. And finally on the bottom right, 0.45. So we're going to color in 45 of the boxes. Oh, there it is. That's a self-portrait of Vincent van Gogh. Now that we've done that, I want you to convert the pictures into fractions. And we know how to convert the pictures into fractions because we've done this before. This is a 100th grid, so we just need to make it into a fraction out of 100. The denominator is going to be 100 because we have 100 pieces. The numerator is going to be how many are colored in. So press pause to try that out, and then press play to check the answers. Okay, let's check if you got your fractions right. Starting in the top left, 0.06. Well, there are 6 of the boxes colored in, and there are 100 altogether, so that's 6 hundredths. In the top right, there are 17 boxes colored in, and there are 100 altogether, so 17 hundredths. In the bottom left, we have 20 boxes colored in, and 100 altogether, so 20 hundredths. And in the bottom right, we have 45 boxes colored in, and 100 altogether, so that's 45 hundredths. Well done, everyone. Now, do we want to color in a 100th grid every single time we want to convert a decimal into a fraction? Absolutely not. That takes way too long. We need to find a faster way to do it. How do we do that? Well, what if we had 0.4? How would we convert that into a fraction? Well, we have 4, so we have 4 something. That's going to be the numerator. But 4 what? 4 ones, 4 tens, 4 turtles, 4 tenths, 4 hundredths, 4 giraffes? Who knows? Well, we know. What we need to do is look at the place value. And if we take a look here, the place value is showing 4 is in the tenths place. And the decimal doesn't show anything other than the tenths place. So now we know the answer. It's 4 tenths. So the denominator is going to be 10. What about this example over here? 0.28. Well, we see 28, so for the numerator we should write 28. But what should the denominator be? 28 what? Again, we need to look at the place value. We know we have tenths, but this number also extends into the hundredths. So this is 28 hundredths, which means that the denominator needs to be 100. 28 hundredths. So when we're converting decimals into fractions, the hardest part is just figuring out that denominator. And it's not that hard. All we need to do is look at the place value. So, let's try it out. I've given you 6 decimals, and all I want you to do is convert them into fractions. Press pause to try it out. Press play to check your answers. Welcome back. Let's check your answers. In the top left, we have 0.6. So how many tenths is that going to be? Well, 6 tenths. In the top middle, we've got 0.2. How many tenths is that going to be? Well, 2 tenths. In the top right, we've got 0.97. How many hundredths is that going to be? 97 hundredths. In the bottom left, we've got 0.50. How many hundredths is that going to be? 50 hundredths. In the bottom middle, we've got 0.9. How many hundredths is that going to be? 9 hundredths. In the bottom middle, we've got 0.09. How many hundredths is that going to be? 9 hundredths. And finally, in the bottom right, we've got 0.90. How many hundredths is that going to be? 90 hundredths. Make sure we pay attention to where the 0 is. In this case, the 9 is in the hundredths place, but in this case, the 9 is over here, so it needs to be 90 hundredths. Okay. What if I make it more difficult for you? What if I don't give you the denominator? You have to figure it out yourself. All right, so how do you do that? The thing you have to remember is how many places after the decimal point are there. If there's only one place after the decimal point, then it's tenths. If there are 2 places after the decimal point, then it's hundredths. Okay, so give that a try and then press play to check your answers. Okay, welcome back. In the top left, we've got 0.4, and 4 is in the tenths place, so the answer is going to be 4 tenths. In the top middle, we've got 0.03. 3 is in the hundredths place, so the answer is going to be 3 hundredths. In the top right, we've got 0.30. Okay, so this goes all the way to the hundredths place, so 30 hundredths. Bottom left, 0.09. 9 is in the hundredths place, so 9 hundredths. And in the bottom middle, 0.2. It only goes to the tenths place, so 2 tenths. And finally in the bottom right, 0.75. That's 75 going into the hundredths place, so 75 hundredths. Now, some of you for the top right over here may have written 3 tenths. 3 tenths is the same as 30 hundredths, but we want to represent it the way it's shown. So if you see the decimal going into the hundredths place, you need to write the fraction as a hundredth as well. We just need to look at the denominator in the fraction. How many places after the decimal point is the decimal going to be? 2. How do we know? Because the denominator here is hundredths, and hundredths is the second decimal place. So, tenths, hundredths. It's going to be 2 places after the decimal point. 28 hundredths. So now I want you to do the same thing. Use the denominator to count how many decimal points you're going to need, and then write your answer as a decimal. Press pause to try it out. Press play to check your answers. Okay, welcome back. Let's give it a go. In the top left, we have 29 hundredths. How do we write that as a decimal? Take a look at the denominator. It's hundredths, so there are going to be 2 places after the decimal point. 29 hundredths, 0.29. In the top middle, we have 4 tenths. How many places after the decimal point? 1, because tenths is 1 place after the decimal point. So 0.4. Next one, 4 hundredths. 4 hundredths. And remember, 4 needs to be in the hundredths place, not in the tenths place. If you wrote 0.4, that wouldn't be right, because 0.4 is 4 tenths. So we need to write 0.04. In the bottom left, 70 hundredths. How many places after the decimal point are we dealing with? 2. So 0.70. In the bottom middle, 7 hundredths. That's easy. 7 needs to be in the hundredths place. Ta-da! And finally, in the bottom right, 3 tenths. Easy again. There is going to be one place after the decimal point, and that's where the 3 is going to go. How do I know one place after the decimal point? Because tenths is one place after the decimal point. 0.3. And now you know how to convert fractions into decimals and decimals into fractions. Okay, so now I know what I need to do. 0.03. That's 3 in the hundredths place. So, I take my card here. 3 in the hundredths place. Denominator is going to be 100 because 3 is in the hundredths place. And then what's the numerator going to be? Oh, well, the numerator is going to be 3. 3 hundredths. Wow, that really is not very good for a battery. I need to go get some more batteries. 3 hundredths of a volt is not going to power my radio. While I go shopping for more batteries, what I want you to do is finish page 227 in your Jump Math book and then complete the quiz that comes afterwards.